We've been tracking this group called the World Economic Forum, headed by Klaus Schwab. And as you said that, this idea of telling us that we're going to build this utopian world, right now what is being called is Build Back Better.
It's not an accident. They're not making a mistake. Notice the word back, not just to build better, but to build back better implies that it's been destroyed. A drowning man is not interested in a discussion on the Constitution. All he wants is air to breathe, and they want everybody in that panic state of drowning. For survival, they've got to just do something. And now under those conditions, these politicians and these social engineers can propose any madness they wish.
Interview with Yuri Bezmenov. At one point, you asked him a really good question. What is subversion? And so let's take a look at this as his answer.
What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system.
How did this start? How did we let it in when we had a nation? And I always grew up thinking the Soviet Union was the enemy.
The Rockefellers and the Carnegies, who back at the turn of the last century decided that they wanted to change the thinking of the American people away from the traditional values of America and encourage them to accept the idea of collectivism. And in order to do that, they said that they had to change the curriculum in the universities. The main idea of collectivism is that the group is more important than the individual. One of the reasons Hitler got an easy rise to power, he was funded by a lot of American capitalists and British capitalists, all of whom were not really capitalists at all. They were wealthy collectivists. We have to understand that right and left is not real. It's a trick.
When you say they believe in collectivism, it doesn't affect them. It's not collectivism for themselves. They still have capital. They still reap the benefits.
These robber barons rose up in a classical system of capitalism. When they finally got to the top, they said basically to themselves, okay, now we're on top of the hill. We want to change the system so nobody can replace us, especially if you notice that middle word, build back better.
Right.
That means backward, doesn't it? And that's exactly what they're talking about, moving backward in the evolution of our economies around the world, moving back toward this situation where there's master and there's slave.
But they make us feel like we're moving forward. Everyone will be equal, essentially, because no one will own anything. And, you know, this is the final step, right? Just accepting our lot is we don't own a damn thing down here. As like equal, who are you renting from? You know what I mean? Like somebody is not equal in this scenario.
And the unspoken part of that is that people don't realize if they get all these goodies that are supposed to be so wonderful, you're going to rent everything. And if you can't afford it, well, we'll give you the money so you can rent it. Oh, that's even better. They don't realize that if you don't do exactly as you're told, you will have no rent to pay. You'll be out in the street with your hat in your hand begging for support for food. And as long as you obey orders, you'll be fine. You'll have your little square platform to live in. You'll probably get a color television set even, and some beer.
Well, and this is what Yuri was, telling us as he was warning us.
The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him.
It's a very pertinent question to ask, how do we build back better?
To build back better or whatever.
We have a chance to reset the clock and build back better than before.
To build back better than before.
Remember the terrible damage of COVID as we try to build back from this global pandemic.
Joe Biden calls it build back better.
Build back better.
Building back better.
To do things differently. To build back better.
We're going to build it back better.
And build it back better.
It's my plan to build back better.
Start taking all the problems that have been created in education and mental health and start to build back in a positive way.
I have launched a booklet called Build Back Better, Britain After Coronavirus.
It's about building this country back better.
Build back better.
Building back better our economy.
Build back better.
All elements of the Great Reset are fundamental to building the future we need.